there's not a lot of banks out there that actually run on what SoFi is trying to build. And the
What do you
McKinsey,
mean by run on what SoFi is trying to build?
not a lot of banks are okay. So this goes to the banking 4.0 that we can bring up. I guess I'll explain it real quickly. So there's this guy called Brett King, and he is kind of like a futurist for banking. He's written a few books, and a lot of banking CEOs invite him into banks for speeches and whatnot. But anyway, he created this model called Banking 4.0, and it talks about like the era and progressions of banking as we see it in the past 2,000 years. So, for instance, banking from the Romans all the way to the 1960s very rarely changed. It's kind of like the same model. You put stuff in a vault. And then in the 60s, we first had like the first account numbers. But nothing really changed about banking until we got the internet and you could actually get on your computer, click, and look at your balance. That's banking 1.0. Banking 2.0 came about when smartphones came about. So, like 2008 era, where you can get on your phone, you can do deposit checks via your phone and like check your balances and send money back and forth. Banking 3.0 is where no banks in the US are at right now. I mean, like there are a few people are getting close to that, but you can't meaningfully make a bank that has artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, that can assist you with stuff like on uh, like Facebook is really good at selling you what you want because it knows who you are. Banks don't know how to do that. SoFi's like that's the whole SoFi's productivity loop thing that they're trying to do. But SoFi is trying to build like a platform under 3.0 banking where you can use like machine learning, where you can use advanced technologies that developers in fintech can build. So, here's the thing, like, why can't banks jump to 3.0? It's because the back end of banks in the US are so badly and poorly built, and they're very, very old, and it's very, very expensive to move off of them. And all the leadership in banks in America right now don't really have any push to, because if you're a bank in the top 10 banks in America, they have a feeling that they're going to still be in that top 10 ranking in the next 10 years because like there's not a lot of competition in banking. But that's going to change pretty soon whenever 3.0 banks start like taking market share, because whenever you introduce AI and machine learning and all these other oh my gosh, I can't talk, all these other advanced technologies in banking, your bank is going to have such an operational low cost to running that you're going to have so much more like dividends and profits than other banks. And in the future, other banks are going to start feeling the heat. Go ahead.
Let me come in real quick. Chris says, I don't agree, Riley. JPM has that. And you can respond, Riley, to what Chris is saying. I think if a bank has overdraft fees, they are not banking 3.0. Let's say
yes. That. So Chris is right. Chris is 100% right. JP Morgan has a lot of these advanced technologies. And the reason why is because they have a deep, endless pocket where they don't have to do any of this stuff. However, if you look at all of the other fintechs, okay, so like let's take all of the innovation in banking right now. Where is it coming from? It's fintechs, small companies, not big banks. And the reason why is because they have big ideas and they're not scared of regulations, where they ask like regulators different questions. So like if you're at JP Morgan and you go to a regulator, you say, what can we do? And then the regulators tell them what they can do. However, if you're a fintech, you go to a regulator and say, can I do this? This is like the whole culture with banking in America right now. So what the point is, like SoFi is going to be building this 3.0 platform, and they're going to attract all of these awesome fintech developers in the future. This is not like, I don't know the future, of course, but like JP Morgan, yeah, they can have the deepest pockets in the world, but if you get everybody in fintech that wants to make a fintech business using your platform, it doesn't matter how much JP Morgan has. Like they're not going to be able to outcompete the entire market, the entire market's innovation. There's a reason like JP Morgan didn't make a firm or any of these other like buy now pay later products. It's because they had no competition and no drive to. So maybe go ahead.
I can just set the stage because I think I'll let Tannor just jump in with his point, but and just maybe this might be like super simplistic and very common sense to a lot of people, but for some people it might help frame the situation. So banking 3.0, all about personalization. Like, how do we become personalized in terms of leveraging your data to give you better service? And in order to do that, there's really two things you need. You need a huge pool of data that you've collected. So you need to know a lot about me so that you can cater your service to me. And then number two, you need the actual tech platform that is basically the model that you train, that you feed that data into, and then that becomes the engine by which you serve that personalization. And so a lot of these legacy banks have gigantic pools of data because people have been using them by and large for their entire life. And the banks can form models around that. What they don't have, and what SoFi is building, where they're inserting themselves into this equation, is that engine by which to digest that data and thereby provide personalization to end users.
And that's very important because fintechs that are being the most innovative, they need to partner with banks. So there's a lot of banks in America right now. I can name a few in a moment, but there's Robinhood has a partner bank, and that is Bancorp, and SoFi uses it, Chime uses it, Venmo uses it. There's other Lincoln Savings Banks, Moneyline uses it, M1 Finance uses it.
There's a ton of bank sponsors out there.
Yeah. So these banks, they're like stuck in 2.5. They're not at 3.0 because a lot of these the Cross River Bank that Affirm and Upstart uses, they're stuck at 2.5. They're not at 3.0 yet because they don't have this amazing back end. And I want to be clear to everybody who's watching. We don't know if SoFi is going to be this 3.0 bank yet. We don't have to, Anthony Noda hasn't proven it to us. So SoFi is technically unproven, but this is the model that they're chasing, is where they're going to be this awesome platform. If you're building an AWS of fintech, you want old institutions to run on it, of course, because they have all the money. But you also want to attract all the people that build stuff because you can't do it yourself. There's no way SoFi is going to be able to build a better bank than JP Morgan with the deepest pockets in the world. I mean, and all these other banks are going to want to shift over to SoFi, this $5 billion company. It's not going to happen. You want to marry both sides of the river, where you get all these fintech developers wanting to build on your platform because it's cheap and easy, like AWS was in the early 2000s, and how it made it easy to start a business, a tech business online, and you want it to be on SoFi's platform because then SoFi has all the innovation, and all the banks want exposure to that innovation, so they come to SoFi. So
maybe I can just jump in, which is actually
Yeah.
Tanner.
Yeah,
did you
let
have a
Tanner-
point
let
before
Tanner
I
go.
jump in. Okay, so he's fixing his audio, I think. So I'll just jump in. Just so we've established.
Are you good?
Why
Tanner,
this
you good?
is? Yeah, Tanner, you want to go?
Yeah, sorry about that. I had my my laptop here plugged in, but I don't know, it's still draining battery. So, I was just going to say as well that one, JP Morgan is, or in a lot of these big banks, it's the cost at which they're making these new technologies as well. It's the speed in which they can innovate that's also important, right? SoFi is being able to innovate very, very quickly because they, vertically integrated with this, acquisition of Technisys. Whereas JP Morgan, do you know how many technicians they have trying to work on better technology there? 50,000 different technicians at JP Morgan alone. 50,000. And the speed, the slow speed to innovate on their crappy product that, unless you're an extremely high net worth, sort of individual, it is a crap product. And the only reason why it's not crap for the ultra high net worth people is because there's no one that's built a platform for them yet. And so JP Morgan remains the kingmaker and tax collector of that area. But, until SoFi can build out a platform for that as well. And I'm not saying necessarily they're going to dominate every area, but the new fintechs are undisputedly taking a massive market share from the larger banks, and there's nothing that they can seemingly do about it. And I'd like to bring up a chart after Tevis says, just to prove my point here.
Yeah. So what I was going to sort of move us into is, we've established that this is, an important next step in the banking technology tree, let's say. and we've established what are the steps necessary for us to get there. And the next logical question that comes into my mind is like, okay, why have the legacy banks not done it? Has it been A, because they don't see enough profit in it? Like, it doesn't make sense for them financially? Has it been because B, they have not had, enough competitors, so they never felt the need to innovate? What I'm trying to get to is, or has it been because C, they just don't have the know-how, the actual technology at their disposal to do it? Probably, something in between is the truth. But the thing that I'm trying to get at is like, is this a proactive move that SoFi is, or fintechs like SoFi is going to lead? Or is this a reactive move from the banks where they're saying, oh, wait a minute, now there's competition? Or are they saying, wait a minute, now we've realized that there is dollars and cents to be made here. There's optimizations in terms of our profit. Therefore, we're going to make that move. So just I guess the overall sentiment as to why big banks should care about this. And like, is it really something that's that much of a paradigm shift that will disrupt the likes of JP Morgan and Goldman
Tevis,
Sachs?
let me ask you a question, because how do you think that JP Morgan will make tech faster than all these fintechs that start up? There are so many fintechs that have started up in the last 5 years. And if they have a platform to build on, like, you can see these fintechs scale rapidly and take market share rapidly. And SoFi doesn't really want to compete with them. They're trying to do like win-win scenarios like AWS did. And I just don't see, like, there's a lot of like debate that SoFi, why would you buy SoFi if JP Morgan has this much money? They'll never compete. And SoFi is like, we understand that. We don't care. We're building a platform so other people can build on top of it, just like AWS did. And this is, dude, SoFi has so much like strategies that touch on other companies. Like, their SoFi app is like Apple, where it's all in one ecosystem. They want you to stay in the same ecosystem. They build their products to work together. And then they're like they're trying to be like AWS on their tech side. And then they're like I don't know. I had another comparison, but whatever.
So I agree with you, Riley, in terms of like, okay, if we look at the likes of JP Morgan and the likes of SoFi or whatever, Affirm or Robinhood or Square, whatever, insert fintech here for whatever problem you're trying to solve. The legacy players are not going to be able to compete in terms of the speed of innovation on a one-to-one basis. But what they do have is they have deep pockets and unlimited resources. And something that's happened here in Canada is like every single disruptor that's come into the market has been bought up by a legacy player, and it's still status quo because the disruptor comes into the market and starts disrupting. And the moment the legacy player feels invaded or encroached upon, they'll just buy up that company and all innovation stops dead in its tracks, and it's just status quo.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, it's very, very hard to sort of put the genie back in the bottle sort of thing, like these fintechs are starting to break out. I don't think I think this industry is evolving now. Anthony Noto knows it 100%. And just really quickly, if I can show you a couple things. I don't know if anyone's been following the Federal Reserve posts assets under management for different banks. And now I wanted to cover so many points, but I didn't want to jump in and disrupt anyone. So really quickly, while I'm bringing this up, I also wanted to say, why buy SoFi over JP Morgan? Well, I mean, the honest truth is that whenever you're buying a stock, you're not buying it based on what company's the biggest. You're buying it on the rate of change versus the expected rate of change, right? There's an expected value at which it's going to grow versus how much you think it's going to grow. And then that's going to determine whether you're successful or not. But so what's the likelihood that JP Morgan at a 1.5 times price to book ratio is going to make up 50% more of their book just to get flat versus SoFi at a 0.8 price to book ratio? How quickly are they to actually double that book, which is extremely small right now? That is the funny thing about SoFi, and why I think we're in such a great area right now is because our expected growth is bottomed out when really no signs are really pointing at that at all. It's just a bunch of people with feared, things because other competitors have gone down. Common Bond, Robinhood, a lot of these companies have faced, bad sides on their actual company performance in the last couple quarters. And so people think it's going to happen to SoFi, but it just hasn't. Really quick, I also wanted to show, can I share my screen?
Yeah, you got it.
Here is this Stephen Fiorillo. We've had him on the show a couple times. Posted this. I added just a couple different things just to see the actual market caps of these companies and the rates of change. And so what you can see here is these are the deposits between Q1 to Q3. Now it is a spiked chart. Okay, absolutely, because this is SoFi's first quarter of deposits to their now where they are now in the last 2 quarters. Okay. That's not exactly, what I'm showing off, but even the actual new amount of deposits, whenever you just look at the overall number, is way higher than most, considering that most of these bigger banks are actually in negatives. The fintechs are coming in and swiping away customers from all of these larger big banks. Okay. And they're going to the smaller names right now. And people think that we're going to go bankrupt in this terrible market before we're able to take off. And I just don't think that's going to be the case, but that's the risk versus reward in this scenario.
SoFi has a $3 billion market cap right now.
I just
yeah,
that's the same
3.7.
thing. That's
wow,
insane.
bro.
That's insane.
The price to book on SoFi must be ridiculous.
So,
yeah, I think it's 0.8. I think it's 0.8. So people are saying that our book value is going to go down before it even goes up, and that although we're growing at 60% rates on our revenues right now, we're absolutely going to profitability. That whole argument is an absolute joke. Look at Lending Club, look at SoFi. Tell me the difference. They're just earlier in getting their bank license. But if you can actually find the difference, I'd love to know. But these are sort of the great things about SoFi. They will hit profitability. They'll hit 4 quarters of profitability. And that will be, I think a big catalyst. That was a huge catalyst for Tesla, right? It was a huge issue in 2019. Tevis, if you were there, you probably remember it was
2020.
Even whenever they first started getting quarters, 1 or 2 quarters of profitability, it was nothing. We want to see a full year of profitability. They did it, and the stock absolutely skyrocketed. I'm not saying that's going to happen with SoFi, but if the trends continue, I said this on Riley's, spaces the other day. If you were to value this company by not looking at the stock price and simply looking at the financials that they're showing you each quarter, I would say most people are valuing it much higher than a $3.7 billion market cap. That's a joke.